Good evening, everyone, and thank you for tuning in and joining us tonight for our first ever virtual annual dinner at home. I'm Elliot Brinkman, Executive Director of Prairie Rivers Network, and it is an honor to be with you all tonight, even if we're apart. We'd like to thank our many sponsors and local business partners who helped make tonight happen. And most importantly, we'd like to thank all of you, our members and supporters, for all you do for Prairie Rivers Network throughout the year. Of course, we wish we could be with you all in person. Our annual dinner is something we look forward to every year. It's the event of the year for us, and I know it's the event of the year for many of you. It's a chance to reconnect with friends, to celebrate our accomplishments for the year, to honor our partners and friends for the work that they do across Illinois. And it's also oftentimes a chance to hear from some of the foremost thinkers and leaders in the environmental space. So while this year is a little bit different, we're all apart. I'm coming to you from my living room. We still promise to bring you a great program that's hopefully a lot of fun and hopefully leaves you inspired and energized to continue the fight for a more just and equitable world in a healthier environment. But before we get into our program, I do want to take a minute to acknowledge this moment that we find ourselves in. As we're collectively navigating this new reality as we continue to work on some of the most pressing issues of our time. The COVID crisis has disrupted many aspects of daily life. It's taken the lives of over 1 million people worldwide. We've seen countless examples of racial injustice and violence. We've seen the impacts of catastrophic climate change, with the most recent examples being wildfires in the west and hurricanes battering the southeast. And amidst these interconnected crises, we've seen, in a time when we need to be caring for each other and caring for the environment, we have seen an outright attack on some of our foundational bedrock environmental protections, like the Clean Air Act and the Clean Water Act, that are designed to keep people safe from pollution. But despite these challenges, there is a lot to be hopeful about, and there are many opportunities ahead of us. This moment presents an opportunity for awakening in all of us to acknowledge that all of these issues are interconnected. It's an opportunity for us to come together, to care for one another, and to stand up for what's right. And so tonight, you'll hear from our staff, you'll hear from our partners, you'll hear from our friends, about how we all can engage, how we all can make a difference, and how we all can stand up for what's right. And so in that spirit, I encourage all of you tuning in and listening and watching tonight to consider a donation to Prairie Rivers Network. And a sincere thank you to those of you who have already donated. We count on your support to continue our fight and continue this important work. Every dollar you donate supports our dedicated and talented staff who work tirelessly to make an impact on things like climate change, clean water, and healthier food and farming systems. So there are many ways to donate. We like to make it easy for you. The easiest way is for you to go onto our website, prairierivers.org/donate. This year we actually have a texting option as well, so you can text PRN dinner to 243-725. But thank you so much for your support tonight and throughout the year. We could not do this work without all of you. So let's get into the program. It's now time for me to hand it over to some of our staff to talk about what we've been able to accomplish in 2020. These are the folks who work hard day in, day out, and I'm honored to work alongside them and call them my colleagues. Despite all of the challenges we've faced this year, there is a lot to reflect on and a lot to celebrate. So without further ado, let me hand it over to the folks who can tell it best, the Prairie Rivers Network staff, to talk about some of our accomplishments in 2020. Thanks again for joining us, and I hope you enjoy the program tonight.
Good evening, friends of Prairie Rivers Network. Welcome to our first annual, hopefully not annual, virtual dinner. Really appreciate you tuning in tonight. So sorry we can't be in person. We're going to have fun anyway. My name is Kim Knowles. I have been on the staff at Prairie Rivers Network for 12, I think going on 13 years now. And I currently work in our clean energy program with my colleagues Amanda and Andrew. And I'm excited to talk to you about important progress we've made this year. Despite COVID, there's really important things happening in our program, and I can't wait to share that with you. There's 3 ways that Prairie Rivers Network works on clean energy. 1 is legislatively, 2 is through grassroots organizing and community planning, and 3 is through policy implementation. And we've really, despite COVID, we've made some great progress in each of these areas this year. The first legislatively is we joined with the Clean Jobs Coalition to craft a comprehensive clean energy bill that centers racial and socioeconomic equity in all of the programs that the bill creates. Secondly, we've made important progress in grassroots organizing so that there's people like yourself coming out and supporting this important bill. My colleague Amanda was instrumental in getting hundreds of people to Springfield for a lobby day before COVID. She has also been doing very important community organizing work, helping communities transitioning from coal to renewable energy, planning for their future, and helping them understand the programs that the Clean Energy Jobs Act has developed to help workers who need job training, support with business development, and retirement. The third way we do energy work is with policy implementation, so that when bills like CEJA create new programs, we're there to ensure that those programs are implemented equitably and properly. So I wanted to share with you some work we've done this year that we're particularly proud of, and that is work we've done to strengthen Illinois' Solar for All program. The Solar for All program is Illinois' first low-income solar program. We've done work to increase the funding for the program, to ensure that more minority business enterprises can build projects in the program, and to ensure that more low-income nonprofits can get solar projects on their roofs. In fact, in Champaign-Urbana, there's been numerous Solar for All projects on nonprofits. A few of them are the Crisis Nursery, Don Moyer's Boys and Girls Club, Cunningham Children's Home, and another one is Land of Lincoln Legal Aid.
While we work towards a cleaner and greener energy future, we must also confront the legacy of pollution that fossil fuel industry will leave behind. Last year, Illinois passed the Coal Ash Pollution Prevention Act. This law protects people and the environment from the threat of toxic coal ash pollution. We continue to lead on this issue, ensuring that the rules created under this law are as strong as possible. I'm standing in the Middle Fork, Illinois' only national scenic river. We're holding Dynegy accountable for the coal ash waste that is seeping through the banks of the Middle Fork, a ways upstream from here. A favorable decision from the U.S. Supreme Court in a similar case means that we can move forward with our Clean Water Act appeal against Dynegy. Between that appeal and our state lawsuit, we're determined to hold Dynegy accountable for cleaning up its coal ash.
The COVID crisis has highlighted many vulnerabilities in our society, especially in our food and farming systems. We find ourselves in a pivotal moment. We must challenge the business-as-usual practices of industrial agriculture while promoting a more resilient food and farming system. That means protecting farmers and their right to grow diverse, healthy crops while also protecting wildlife and the environment from the negative impacts of agriculture. We continue to work with partners to create a food system that is rooted in regenerative agriculture and benefits people and the environment. We've seen how the widespread use of herbicides like dicamba and 2,4-D threaten biodiversity, the farms that grow the food we depend on, and the health of our communities. This summer, we released 2 reports highlighting the impacts of these herbicides. Our Tree and Plant Health Monitoring Report shows 2 years of widespread symptoms of herbicide damage to native trees and plants around the state. We also released a national report on the threats posed by dicamba, a harmful herbicide used throughout the Midwest. We will continue to work with partners across Illinois and the U.S. to stop the use of this harmful herbicide and to promote and build support for weed management systems that are resilient, adaptable, and protect farmers and our communities as well as the environment. We continue to work alongside many partners to expand and strengthen the efforts of Regenerate Illinois and the Idea Farm Network, where together we seek to connect those working to create a food system that is just, fair, and based on farming practices that regenerate the soil, protect the water and air, support biodiversity, and ensure that we live in healthy communities. We are helping growers, landowners, and communities realize the value of biodiversity and the importance of creating places for pollinators to thrive. We also believe that clean water is a fundamental right, and so our work must address agriculture's impact to water quality. This year, we initiated a rural well water quality survey to gain a better understanding of farming's impact on groundwater and to build awareness of the human health risks associated with pollution in private wells. We look forward to continuing this effort in 2021, building support for better practices that protect the quality of our water and the health of the people of Illinois. Over the past several years, we have witnessed an all-out attack on federal environmental protections. We continue to fight back, and this year we joined the Natural Resources Defense Council and other partners in a lawsuit to defend the Clean Water Act against the U.S. EPA's attempted rollback of the Clean Water Rule. The rollback removes the Clean Water Act protections for headwater streams and thousands of acres of wetlands across the country. We won't stop fighting until all our rivers and streams are fully protected.
Protecting and restoring our lands and waters results in a healthier environment and more resilient communities. We work to create abundant habitat and open space that support a diversity of life. We work to reimagine how our rivers are managed, providing benefits to wildlife and protecting communities from climate-related flooding. With the help of our members and our important partners, we've advocated for improving the health of the Mississippi River. Because of our fight, the House of Representatives increased funding for habitat restoration on the upper Mississippi River. We'll see more projects where critical wildlife habitat is restored along the river, and we'll see more scientific research supporting these decisions. This progress couldn't be more important and timely. Earlier this year, our partners at American Rivers named the Upper Mississippi as the #1 most endangered river in the country. After decades of mismanagement, and with climate change altering the behavior of the river, there are serious health and safety concerns for communities along the upper Mississippi. We will continue to advocate for a healthy Mississippi River, where habitat restoration and smart, natural solutions to flooding are a core part of protecting people and wildlife. We continue to fight for effective invasive species control. Invasive species like Asian carp are a true threat to not only the Great Lakes, but to downstream waters like the Illinois and Mississippi rivers. This year we worked to secure funding to help control and eradicate Asian carp in the Mississippi River Basin. This past year has presented some unique challenges. Among them is rethinking how we connect with each other, our partners, and supporters. We've had to get creative. We're all Zoom experts now, and despite working remotely, we've been able to connect with one another in positive ways. We're particularly proud of our podcast series, Stories from the Floodplain, where we highlight the insight and work of people around the state fighting the good fight, doing their part to protect water, heal land, and inspire change. This year, more than any other, has made one thing abundantly clear.
We achieve what we do because we are a network.
Our work depends on you, our members.
With your support throughout the year,
And here tonight,
We must do nothing less than change the course of history.
even if it's just in our backyard.
Our neighborhood,
Our community.
our corner of the world.
Transformative change can begin with the action of any of us here tonight.
This has been a difficult year for many, but working together, we accomplish incredible things.
We can make the future brighter and better.
by giving tonight, you can support a vision of a clean energy future for Illinois.
By donating tonight, you can help build a regenerative food system that is just and equitable.
Please donate tonight to continue our work to protect communities from catastrophic flooding and climate change throughout the state of Illinois.
Your donation tonight will protect the Middle Fork, and it will also protect communities across the state from coal ash pollution.
Please give tonight to help protect biodiversity for future generations.
Thank you so much for listening. Please consider making a contribution to Prairie Rivers Network tonight. We really can't do this without you. Thank you so much.
Hi folks, I'm Jeff Comstead and I'm here with your PRN Trivia Minute. I'm going to give you 4 clues, and the first person to answer any one of them in chat over here will win a prize. So let's get started. PRN was first known as the Committee on Allerton Park. We were founded in what year? Name Illinois' only national scenic river. This mammal has seen a resurgence in Illinois waterways. Name it. Identify this species of butterfly. It may not be what you think it is. Okay folks, thanks for playing. And don't forget to put your answers in chat. And now, back to the program.
I'm Charlotte Westcott, and I'm the newest member of the Board of Directors at Prairie Rivers Network. On behalf of the board, I want to welcome all of you. We're always happy to see everyone at our annual dinner, but this year in particular, it means a lot to have you join us tonight. I'm excited to announce this year's award winners. Each year, we give out awards because we want to recognize the value of our network of members, partners, funders, advocates, and activists. Sharing the good deeds of others not only inspires the board and staff, we hope it inspires you as well, to make a donation right now, to post on social media, to clean up your local waterway, to organize others into action. We are all in this together. Our first award for the night is our River Steward Award, which recognizes and celebrates the important work of an individual whose on-the-ground efforts to protect the state's rivers and streams inspire us. We are happy to give this year's River Steward Award to Pat Lawler for her work on the Kishwaukee River Water Trail. Pat was nominated by Cindy Screwcood and the environmental defenders of McHenry County, who described Pat as a force of nature for her efforts to create a new water trail on the Kishwaukee River in McHenry County in northeastern Illinois. Pat established a volunteer organization called Paddle the Kish in Marengo and has recruited, organized, and led volunteers to work on the water trail. She tirelessly brought together a broad coalition of stakeholders to protect the Kishwaukee River watershed. She led efforts to fund the development of launch sites on the river trail in order to create areas for family-friendly paddling in the Marengo area. Getting people out on the river is one of the best ways to build the next generation of river and conservation advocates. Thank you, Pat, for your stewardship and for making the Kishwaukee Water Trail a reality.
Hi, thank you to the Prairie Rivers Network for this River Steward Award for 2020. I'm honored that you thought of us. The 700 volunteers for Paddle the Kish in Marengo are very excited about this recognition from this statewide organization. Behind me is the Kishwaukee River, where it intersects with Highway 23. The river flows through the city of Marengo toward Rockford, where it joins the Rock River and then the Mississippi. It's the last Class A river in northern Illinois that does not have a lot of public access, and we're working to change that. In the last 3 years, we've constructed 3 access points with parking lots, and we're very excited to share those with many more paddlers and fishermen that use this river than previously. The first launch is at Seams Memorial Park in Union, where we built a launch. It already had a parking lot. The second launch is on City of Marengo property called Woodbine Launch, and that is 35 acres of brush that many hundreds of hours of volunteers use to clear the area and establish a parking lot and boat drop-off site. We're very excited that with the support of McHenry County Defenders, Water Resources Committee, as well as the McHenry County government and their water resources, that was just a big support system that we were able to tap into so that we could do so much in just 3 years. In the next 5 years, we want to establish 3 more launches at least to open up 14 miles of the beautiful Kishwaukee River for paddling. We very much appreciate this statewide recognition and hope that this is a very exciting time for all of us. Thank you.
Our victories are often made possible due to the dedication and passion of people volunteering their money, time, and talents. There are many ways you can volunteer. You can donate and become a member. You can also raise your voice and be an activist. We honor those volunteers who have helped the organization and staff achieve our mission to protect water, heal land, and inspire change. This year's Volunteer of the Year award goes to a trio of committed activists, Chris Main, Tony Oplet, and Dulce Ortiz, who have gone above and beyond in the fight to stop coal ash pollution and stand up for impacted communities. All 3 were critical in leading grassroots efforts to help pass Senate Bill 9, the Coal Ash Pollution Prevention Act, last year. Their leadership has continued this year in public engagement and education around the development of new coal ash rules with the Illinois Environmental Protection Agency and the Illinois Pollution Control Board. Chris Main is a longtime member of Prairie Rivers Network and advocate for the Middle Fork River. In addition to her volunteer work around coal ash, she has volunteered countless hours behind the scenes, coordinating outreach for Stand Up to Coal to stop the Bulldog Mine. Chris attended rally days in Springfield on important environmental issues, including getting petition signatures and delivering them to Senator Bennett in support of CEJA. She has attended public hearings and founded all the volunteer organization Citizens for a Greener Illinois. She brings energy into everything she works on in a no-nonsense manner and is a strong voice in the environmental movement in Illinois.
Hi, my name is Chris Main, and I'm honored to accept this volunteer award from Prairie Rivers Network. My husband and I have been members for close to 40 years, so this means a lot to me. This is the award. I also want to share it with Citizens for a Greener Illinois. We are a small volunteer group, and our goal is to support the projects and the mission of Prairie Rivers Network. In the past 15 months, we have lobbied legislators in Springfield. We've written letters to the editor. We've passed petitions for the Clean Energy Act, and we have done a little bit of phone banking, and we welcome new members. So if this sounds like something you might be interested in, please call the Prairie Rivers office and they will put you in touch with me. Also, I want to commend the Prairie Rivers Network staff. In over 40 years of volunteering, I've yet to meet a group that is so knowledgeable and so hardworking and so committed. And I'm talking about each and every one of them. They're an outstanding group. And watching them do their jobs gives me hope for the future. And hope for the future is something we all need. So thank you, Prairie Rivers Network, and thank you, Citizens for a Greener Illinois.
Tony Oplet is a part of the Metro East Green Alliance, a community organization with a mission to hold polluters accountable and support the advancement of a clean energy economy. Tony has been a longtime leader in addressing pollution from the now shuttered Wood River coal plant near Alton, Illinois. Recent efforts include a demand for public transparency around the demolition and remediation of the plant. In addition to her coal ash work, she is an active participant in downstate efforts to advance a clean energy economy and pass the Clean Energy Jobs Act. You can always count on Tony to volunteer to help behind the scenes or to stand out in front, and her home-baked treats make every event better.
Hi, I am really honored to be chosen as one of the Volunteers of the Year from Prairie Rivers Network. I have loved working with all the amazing people from PRN, and really the thanks goes the other way. You've always been there for my local group, Metro East Green Alliance. You've always supported us, and especially Amanda Pankow and Andrew Rain for coming to our aid and helping us fight the corporate polluters down in the Metro East. We are forever grateful, and we would never have been able to achieve what we have without your help. So thanks very much, and be well.
Dulce Ortiz is a co-chair of Clean Power Lake County, a community-driven coalition committed to local action to secure environmental, economic, and racial justice. She is also the executive director of the Mano a Mano Family Resources Center, which empowers immigrants and their families to become full participants in their community. Dulce is a leader for environmental justice and coal ash work, as well as clean energy work with the Illinois State Climate Table. She has worked to protect Waukegan, Illinois from NRG's coal plant, which has 2 coal ash ponds in the shores of Lake Michigan. Last year, she testified before the House Legislative Committee in the support of Coal Ash Pollution Prevention Act, and this year she testified before the Illinois Pollution Control Board for the coal ash rulemaking. Dulce is a tireless voice for protecting her community and the environment.
Good evening. Thank you for joining us at this amazing virtual Prairie Rivers Network annual dinner. First and foremost, I'm very honored and very humbled to receive this year's Volunteer of the Year Award along with Chris and Tony. Obviously, we can't do this work alone, and we stand on the shoulder of many volunteers that have worked tirelessly for years to protect us from coal ash pollution. As we continue to fight for our communities and our loved ones to make sure that we have a better and healthier environment, as a typical volunteer, I do have a call to action for all of you. I ask that you please continue to support the work of this amazing organization, and that you also talk to your legislators about passing the Clean Energy Jobs Act this year. We all want a clean energy future and an equitable energy transition. With your help, we can put Illinois on a trajectory to be the leading state in the nation in clean energy policies. Again, I'm very honored and my heart is so full to receive this recognition, but we still have a lot of work to do, and we're counting on you to help us pass the Clean Energy Jobs Act this year. Thank you.
Our final award for the evening is our Outstanding Public Servant Award. We created this award because our elected officials and those that serve in our state and federal agencies, who are paid with our tax dollars, are key to implementing good policies that protect both the environment and public health. We must hold them accountable for missteps and, just as importantly, celebrate them when they help create solutions for the serious problems facing our state and country. Prairie Rivers Network is more than a conservation organization. Protecting our natural world is not just about enjoying the beauty and wonder of nature. It is also a public health issue. Clean water and a healthy food system are essential for public health. Getting outside and enjoying nature is essential for our mental health. The COVID-19 pandemic has brought into sharp focus the importance of public health. Officials in Illinois recognized early the threat this virus posed and made science-based decisions under incredibly difficult circumstances. Our public health professionals are on the front lines protecting us from this devastating virus. We appreciate their unabashed commitment to science and telling us the hard truths. We owe them our gratitude for their efforts to keep us safe. That is why we are so honored and humbled to recognize Illinois' public health professionals as this year's recipient of our Outstanding Public Servant Award. Our local public health administrator of Champaign County, Julie Pride, exemplifies these professionals. On behalf of all of us at Prairie Rivers Network, we are happy to have Julie Pride and Dr. Ngozi Ezike, Director of the Illinois Department of Public Health, accept this award in honor of all of Illinois' public health professionals.
Good evening. My name is Julie Pride, and I'm the administrator for the Champaign-Urbana Public Health District. Thank you for the opportunity to join you this evening to learn more about the important work of Prairie Rivers Network. I am honored to accept this award on behalf of my hardworking colleagues across Illinois. This has been a strange and difficult year thus far, and I'm afraid it's going to get worse before it gets better, but it will get better. I cannot tell you how wonderful it is to be the public health administrator of Champaign County, a county that values science and facts, a county with top-notch medical care and a world-class university. While my colleagues struggle with trying to implement even the most basic public health measures such as mask wearing and social distancing, I live in a community that not only understands the science behind the request, but also care enough about each other to wear the mask and to ensure that everyone has access to them. I have witnessed unparalleled levels of collaboration, communication, goodwill, and genuine caring. I do not have to tell you who are trying to protect our waters that science denial, partisanship, and mean-spiritedness can really wear you down. The constant fighting against those who deny reality is exhausting. I am grateful that you all carry on despite these obstacles, and CU Public Health District supports your efforts as we understand the One Health approach. We understand that animal health, human health, and environmental health are inescapably linked to one another. We must all continue to work together and fight on, for this is literally a battle of life and death. I thank you for all you do, and I proudly accept this honor from your esteemed network on behalf of my public health colleagues across the state. Thank you.
Good evening. I'm so happy to be joining you and tremendously honored to be considered an outstanding public servant, along with my esteemed colleague, Julie Pride with the Champaign-Urbana Public Health District. Similar to the mission of the Prairie Rivers Network of protecting water, healing land, and inspiring change, the Illinois Department of Public Health is focused on protecting the health of Illinois residents and inspiring people to take action to stay healthy. This mission during the COVID-19 pandemic has been especially important, but also very challenging. Perhaps similar to what you may hear, that global warming isn't real. Pollution is just a fact of life, or there's nothing that people can do to protect the environment and the ecosystems. We are hearing from people who think this pandemic isn't real, that the virus isn't that bad, or that wearing a mask and social distancing won't help. Despite these misconceptions or misunderstandings, we will continue to do our absolute best to protect the health of all Illinoisans by sharing the latest scientific information and data, as well as inspire people to take action, wear a mask, keep social distance, and wash our hands. I will add just one more thought. During this pandemic, we have found that many people are choosing to explore and enjoy the great outdoors as a way to get out of the house in a safe way. In doing so, hopefully, people have found an appreciation of the environment and an understanding that keeping our land and our water healthy will keep us healthy as well. Thank you again for this tremendous honor, and thank you for all the work that you do.
We'd like to extend our congratulations and a huge thank you to all of our award winners this year. We give out these awards each year to shine a light on some of the great work that is happening across the state of Illinois to protect people and protect the environment. It may come as no surprise that we work with a whole host of partners to carry out our mission. We very much depend on them and they depend on us. And so this year we wanted to share a little bit of what our partners have had to say about working with us this year.
Prairie Rivers has been our trusted partner on the ground working on water quality issues for a number of years, and we don't work on water quality without talking to them. They are our resources and our experts, and they've been instrumental in helping to move forward conservation and water quality policies here in Illinois.
Hi, this is Jenny Castle. I'm an attorney with Earth Justice, and I have had the privilege and opportunity to work with Prairie Rivers Network over the last number of years, particularly on coal ash issues. They've been incredible leaders in that space, and it's been a joy to work with them.
Hey everybody, this is Tim Wagner, Isaac Walton League of America. I work in both Illinois and Iowa on ag and water quality issues, and I'm very happy to say that I enjoy working a lot with the Prairie Rivers Network. They're a good organization. It takes collaboration with groups like PRN and others to really get things done. And so really urge a lot of support for Prairie Rivers Network.
It's just so incredibly important for all of us to be involved in this together. It's not just the farmers or the people who are actually growing your food. It's all of us together. It's all the groups that do what Prairie Rivers Network is doing and putting people and producers together.
Hey, this is Olivia Dorothy from East Moline, Illinois, on the banks of the Mississippi River. I've been working with Prairie Rivers Network over the last couple of years to address the impacts of climate change in communities along the Mississippi River and in all of our tributaries. As we move forward, we know that we're going to see a lot more flooding along the Mississippi and along rivers throughout the state of Illinois. And Prairie Rivers Network has been integral in helping us get solutions on the ground to address flooding and climate change impacts for communities all over the state of Illinois.
My name is Jay Courgette, and I am the owner of Central Road Energy, a solar company dedicated to implementing Illinois Solar for All projects throughout Illinois. For the past 3 years, Prairie Rivers Network has been a valuable contributor to the success of the program through their participation as a grassroots educator and their active and valuable advocacy. If you care about the environment and seek effective solutions to the challenges our state faces, you should support Prairie Rivers Network.
We have the Illinois EPA, you have the MWRD, we have organizations like you, Friends of the Rivers, and other organizations that, help us to put policies in place and keep us accountable for environmental issues.
We all need each other. We all need each other.
It is truly an honor and a privilege to introduce tonight's special guest, our keynote speaker, Dr. Mustafa Santiago Ali. Dr. Ali is a renowned thought leader, speaker, policymaker, community liaison, trainer, and facilitator. He wears many, many hats, but he currently serves as the Vice President on Environmental Justice, Climate, and Community Revitalization for the National Wildlife Federation. He is also the founder and CEO of Revitalization Strategies. Before joining the National Wildlife Federation, Dr. Ali was the Senior Vice President for the Hip Hop Caucus, a national nonprofit and nonpartisan organization that connects the hip hop community to the civic process to build power and create positive change. There, he led the strategic direction, expansion, and operation of the Hip Hop Caucus's portfolio on climate, environmental justice, and community revitalization. Before joining the Hip Hop Caucus, he worked for the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency for 24 years. He began working on social justice issues at the young age of 16, joining EPA as a student, and was one of the founding members of their Office of Environmental Justice. You may recognize him from his many television and radio appearances, where you can hear him speaking on issues of racial justice, climate, and the need for a holistic approach to take our most vulnerable communities from merely surviving to thriving. It is inspiring and energizing to hear Dr. Ali speak, and so we are extremely grateful that he was able to take the time to share some of his words and thoughts with us on the intersection of COVID, climate, and racial justice. So without further ado, Dr. Mustafa Santiago Ali.
Hi everyone, it's Dr. Mustafa Santiago Ali. I want to thank you for allowing me to join you for just a few minutes for your annual dinner. Thank you to Prairie Rivers Network. Thank you to the board. Thank you to all the affiliates and partners who come together to make real change happen. And also thank you, big thank you to Elliot Brinkman. Thank you for your leadership. Thank you also for understanding the evolution that's necessary for any organization to be a 21st century organization. We have a huge set of challenges that are in front of us, but we also know that we have an even larger set of opportunities that, can help us to move in a very positive direction. We're dealing with COVID-19 and the challenges that we find in that space as millions of folks have found themselves infected and hundreds of thousands of lives that have been lost. We're dealing with the impacts of climate change, both here in this moment and in the future. And we've seen, just the amazing floods that are happening and the wildfires and the hurricanes that continue to batter our Gulf Coast. And we also know that we have to address systemic racism and how many of the choices that were made in the past have found ripples into the moments that we find ourselves in, but that together we have the ability to actually make real change happen. The sins of the past do not have to be the sins of the future. And that's going to take hard work. It's going to take each and every one of us coming together, and all of these issues come together in the work that we do in the environmental space and conservation work and climate work and civil rights, social justice, workers' rights. All of these things are a part of this new paradigm that we can build together to move forward on change. And to move forward, we have to understand that, policy and the decisions that folks have made have got us to this moment. There have been some great things that have happened, but we've also had some very tragic sets of actions that have happened in the past. Whether we're talking about indigenous brothers and sisters being removed from their land, taken away from their traditional foods, the sometimes erosion of culture, or if we're talking about African slaves being brought to this country and doing some of the most dangerous work, and also being taken away from culture. We often talk about culture and how important it is in the environmental context, in the conservation context, of how we want to protect, beautiful and important spaces, how we want to hold on to some of those things that make us who we are, that make our communities who they are. We also have to realize that, our Asian American and Pacific Islander brothers and sisters have also played a significant role in helping us to get to this moment. Infrastructure is a conversation that lots of people are having. Many of us have conversations around natural infrastructure and how important it is to us being able to move forward, to helping to protect us, but also to create a set of opportunities. So we have to give it up to our Chinese brothers and sisters who played a role in building our railroads. And in many instances, in a very dangerous set of situations, but they stuck in there no matter what the obstacles were, and played a role along with others in helping to make real change happen. And we should also be very honest as we are moving forward on change and calling out the fact that we have created sacrifice zones across our country. I've actually begun to evolve in my own thinking about that. We have sacrifice zones where we put everything that nobody else wants. Whether we're talking about coal-fired power plants or incinerators or waste treatment facilities, or we're talking about, dilapidated housing or a number of different things that go into that. We have made some choices through policy, because policy drives lots of our work and some of this decision making that has happened. If we look at our transportation policies, there has been biases, there's been discrimination, there has been racism in that. We know that roads have been used to break up communities, to bring wealth to certain communities and dump off pollution in other communities. We know when we look at our housing policies that, there have been those times where affordable housing, lower income housing has been placed in places like floodplains and been placed next to some of the most dangerous, toxic facilities that are out there. Those were choices that people made. We don't have to make those same choices moving forward, because when we have these sacrifice zones, we know that then people are exposed to these toxins at higher levels, at disproportionate levels. And we know that when that happens, for African American people, for Latinx brothers and sisters, for lower wealth white communities, and for indigenous brothers and sisters, that we get these conditions, these public health impacts that happen, that cause long-term chronic medical conditions. Everything from liver and kidney disease to cancer clusters, to even we find these lung diseases that are also a part of being exposed to this. And that's a part of our work in trying to figure out how we are going to change those dynamics. Because in this COVID-19 moment, we also know that if you have been one of those folks who have these long-term chronic medical conditions, that it makes you more vulnerable to COVID-19. And we know that communities of color are even more at risk, more likely for hospitalizations, 4.5 times more likely than the general population, 2.5 more times likely to actually be hospitalized, and 2.5 more times to actually lose their lives. And we know that there is a connection between air pollution and those exposure rates. And we also know from the work that many of us do that air pollution that has been making Black and brown communities sick is also playing a role in the warming up of our oceans and of our planet. and causing many of these climate emergencies, these climate crises that we find ourselves in. And for those who maybe haven't been as focused on the public health impacts, we also know studies that came out last year that link, the air pollution that many people have been dealing with that is now in our national parks. Over 90% of our national parks are dealing with significant air pollution in a number of different ways. And we also know, as I've often said, and I know many of you probably also have an understanding of this, that same air pollution that is making Black and brown communities sick and shortening their lives is also playing a role, in what's going on in many of our forests. It's also playing a role, in the impacts that are happening with wildlife. It's amazing. The United Nations had a report that came out talking about biodiversity and how we are right now at a point where we could lose 1 million species. Now, I grew up in Appalachia and a little bit in Michigan and spent a lot of time, as a youth, out in the woods, hunting, fishing, hiking, camping, all the things that many people find value in. But not only value in, but also gives you an opportunity to connect to something larger than yourself. And it also gives you a chance to disconnect from all the noise. Some of you will understand what I say and what I mean by that is that we live in this world where there is just so much information that is coming at us constantly, and there's so much noise that sometimes you just need to be able to take a break. And when we don't protect our natural spaces, we are taking away the opportunity for ourselves and for future generations to actually have that place where you can disconnect, that place where you can reconnect with the things that actually matter, whether it is family or with a higher power or whatever it is. We have to make sure that we are protecting that. And that's why I make sure that folks understand that when we're not focused on what's happening in Black and brown communities, in urban centers or in other locations, like in Cancer Alley between Baton Rouge and down in New Orleans, or the folks who are in the Manchester community in Houston, Texas, or the 48217 in Detroit, one of the most polluted zip codes, and when kids look out their windows, they don't get to see what you and I saw when we were growing up. When I looked out my windows, I got a chance to see trees and green space and farmland. And these kids, when they look out the window, they get to see piping. They get to see facilities. And of course, there is a connection between what those kids are seeing and what they're breathing and what's going on in our natural spaces as well. So we have work to do. But together we can actually make real change happen. We can make sure that we have administrations, whether on the federal level, the state level, the county level, even on the local level, where there are folks who get it. And they're committed to actually making sure that we have the policies in place, that we have legislation that is going to help to make sure that the things that we've found value in are always there, and at the same time also making sure that we are protecting the lives of our citizens. To me, that's just common sense. I'm a country boy. I don't pretend to be anything else than that, and I believe in common sense. And common sense to me means that these blessings that God has given us, and we have a responsibility for actually protecting, then we should actually do that. And for me, your vote plays a role in that. I never tell anybody who to vote for, but I do say vote for somebody who cares about what's going on in your community. And of course, vote for somebody who has the forethought to know the impacts that are coming and is trying to figure out, how do we mitigate that? How do we navigate these challenges that we're going to face, and how do we flip it? How do we change and move these challenges into a set of opportunities where we can help to make sure that those who've been looking for a job or those who are in existing jobs that are fading away have a new set of opportunities. And it's very doable because folks are already doing it. The question is, how quickly can we expand it? How quickly can we make sure that there's really justice in there and inclusion as a part of that, to make sure that nobody gets left behind? That's why a just transition is so incredibly important, because a just transition means that we are honoring those who have worked in certain industries in the past and making sure that they have a new set of opportunities, and those who, for whatever reason, weren't a part of the work stream, they're now in it. And not only are they in it, but we're honoring them and making sure that a number of sets of opportunities are going on. We know the new clean economy is going to create millions upon millions upon millions of new jobs. The question is, where are those jobs going to go? What are they going to look like? And how do we help them to really be anchored in the direction that our country is going to go? And that's so incredibly important when we look at water quality issues. Once again, it doesn't make any sense to weaken regulations that are there to make sure that folks actually have the opportunity to have clean and pristine water. Here's the amazing thing. We got 2.2 million people in our country who don't even have access to water and sewage. Think about that for a moment. We got folks who don't even have that ability. I remember when I was growing up in Appalachia and driving into certain places and seeing, and stopping and having conversations with folks who are friends or family, and folks not having that access. This is 2020. There is no reason that folks living in our country, and hopefully we can get it across the planet, wouldn't have access to clean water. Now, we have a whole lot of different violations that happen every year, but we can put mechanisms in place to help people to get what they need to make sure they're living up to whatever it is, the letter of the law, or just making sure that they have confidence, when they turn the tap on that something good is coming out. We can make sure that we never have another Flint, Michigan situation by one, honoring the voices of communities and the intelligence that is inside of those communities. And two, making sure that we have governments that are reflective of the needs of people. That's for a deeper conversation, but we can make sure that we're having that. And the reason we have to have these real conversations, even in the air context, we have 100,000 people in our country who are dying prematurely from air pollution every year in our country. That's the conservative number. Once again, we live in the United States of America. How is it that we got 100,000 people who are dying prematurely and we got folks who are trying to roll back stuff like the clean car rule? I mean, where you have more money in your pocket because you get better gas mileage and less pollution coming out the tailpipe. Again, where I come from, that's just common sense. And you have folks who are trying to get rid of the clean power plan. There's nothing wrong with looking at, pieces of legislation or statutes or whatever it is and saying, how can we make sure that more people are protected? That should be the baseline, right? How are more folks going to be protected? How is Mr. Johnson going to be protected? How is Mrs. Ramirez going to be protected? How is Mr. O'Leary going to be protected? So we have to make sure that we got folks who actually are concerned with what's going on in people's lives, what's going on in our natural spaces, what's going on in protecting wildlife. And we have a responsibility there because we have experiences, we have access, and we have brains. Imagine that God gave us brains. And that means that there's an expectation that we're going to actually use those. But we also know that we have a responsibility to be our brother and our sister's keeper. Think about that for a second. Many of us grow up with that. Am I my brother's keeper? Am I my sister's keeper? And are we actually living up to that set of expectations that are basic? I'd say that we can and we will, and that some folks are already doing it. Folks are looking out for folks, but we got to have more. We got to have so many more. It's interesting. I've been super blessed and I'm thankful, to have been raised in a faith-based family, to have been mentored by civil rights leaders and environmental leaders and a number of other folks who have all come together. And I've also been blessed to be exposed to some really critical information. And I'll leave this with you all. Dr. Martin Luther King shared with us one time. He had a number of very famous speeches that folks will quote. And a number of other things that he shared that people hold on to. And one of those things is what I just want to share with you. And I hope you'll think about it, as you're going through the dinner, but far beyond that, in your work. When you take a look at your organizations, you ask the question, does my organization look like America? In your priority setting, does the sets of priorities that we're putting in place actually look like 21st century America? And how we engage with resources and where resources go and where we take resources from. Will we feel good about that process? Has that process got equity in it? Is justice a part of that process? Dr. King said that we come to these shores in different ships, but we're all in the same boat now. Just think about that for a second, because we truly are all in the same boat. If we think about COVID-19, so many different types of folks are being impacted by COVID-19. We're all in the same boat. If you think about the impacts that are happening from environmental pollution, if you think about the impacts that are happening from climate change, you know, we're all in the same boat. When a flood comes through, when a forest fire happens, when a hurricane hits, we all come together. And we say, you know, what do I need to do to help that person to get out of that house that they've been trapped because the water is rising? Or that fire is raging, and I know that, you know, Mrs. Smith, who's an elder, doesn't move as well as she used to. So let's make sure that we're checking in and making sure that she gets out and that we get her to a safe space. That is that mindset of we're all in the same boat. And even in dealing with the dismantling of systemic racism, if you look at many of the folks who've been out protesting and working, it is white brothers and sisters and African American folks and Latinx folks and indigenous folks and Asian folks and LGBTQ folks, everyone coming together and saying that the 21st century, we have a responsibility to make sure that it looks different, that it is actually embracing all the folks who are in our country, and that we are no longer going to be silent about injustices. And that all ties into our work, because if we want to win on climate change, if we want to protect our natural spaces, if we want to protect biodiversity, then it's going to take everyone, because the challenges are large, but the set of opportunities are even greater. I want to thank y'all so much for a few minutes of your time. I know that together we can make real change happen, but we've got to have accountability in that process. We can't be on the sidelines. We can't make an assumption, well, that's those folks' issue over there, or that's those folks' issue over there. These are our issues, but we also know that these are our solutions. And if we create real, collaborative, authentic partnerships, we can get it done. I'm Dr. Mustafa Santiago Ali. Thank y'all for your advocacy, and thank y'all for your time.
My heartfelt thanks goes out to Dr. Mustafa Santiago Ali for sharing his time, his thoughts, and his wisdom with all of us tonight. Inspiring to say the least. And a big thank you to all of you as well tuning in tonight. You've joined us from great distances and divides. A pandemic that has upturned so much cannot keep us apart, because we are indeed united. We're united in the face of a host of challenges that we, the people alive and awake in this moment in time, are tasked with rising up to meet. This is an extraordinarily difficult time, but that's why it's our time. We've heard a certain refrain tonight many times from many people, and it wasn't scripted. It wasn't something we asked people to say. It was just something that happened organically. We are all in the same boat. Dr. Mustafa Santiago Ali echoed the words of Dr. Martin Luther King. We are all in the same boat. You heard Dave Bishop, a farmer from Atlanta, Illinois, as well as our public health officials make the impassioned plea. We are all in this together. These are iterations of long-time environmental maxims. There is no way. This is the only planet we have. Pollution doesn't just go away because we ignore it, and neither does injustice. We don't solve the problem of pollution by sending it downstream, and we don't solve the problem of injustice by turning our back on our neighbors suffering under its weight. We're in the midst of a pandemic, yet as a country, we're still learning to accept that what I do, the actions that I take, mean sickness or health or life or death for my neighbor. If there's anything the COVID crisis should bring home for us, it's this. My neighbor's health is my health. I should not expect justice if my neighbor cannot expect justice. In fact, I do not have justice if my neighbor does not have justice. These are our issues, and this is our time. You've heard about many of our solutions tonight. A clean energy economy that refuses to leave behind workers and communities, a just and equitable food system that regenerates the soil without polluting the water, healthy, vibrant rivers that all of us, humans and wildlife alike, can proudly call home. We believe in those solutions, we believe in this work, and we are asking you to believe in them as well. And that's why we're asking you to contribute to those solutions tonight by making a donation to Prairie Rivers Network. Together, we can make a difference. I want to thank you all for joining us tonight. I hope you enjoyed our program, and I look forward to a time when we can all be together in person. Thank you, and have a good night.